Greetings and salutations, Dota fans. Welcome back to the main studio here at Beyond the Summit. We're the NA Hub, bringing you TI4 coverage presented by Monster Energy. I'm your host, AC, and joining me for the first cast of the evening, of course, Fear. We've been casting a lot together, man. Been a blast so far. Now we get to kick off our third qualifier, going to be LGD taking on Speed Gaming. Now, the scouting report here tells us LGD, heavy favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I looked up a little bit. I haven't Speed Gaming played too much. I haven't watched them that much, but LGD, clear favorites going to this one, I don't think without a doubt.
Yep.
But in China, you never know who's going to win, I feel like all the teams are really
very
strong.
Close.
Yeah, so I feel like there could be an upset here, but I think LG is going in the heavy favorite.
Well, we're going to find out one way or the other as the draft's already underway. We'll jump right into it now. LGD, really a favorite, not necessarily to come out in top two. Depends on who you ask, what the scouting report, recent results, and all that. But I think most people have LGD coming out at least in top four. So looking to start that bid now. Speed Gaming bans out the Invoker and the Lycan to lead things off. They follow it with a Centaur War Runner pick. It'll be Ancient Apparition and Bat Rider taken out by LGD. And, well, it's the hero I think we're all not necessarily sick of, but if there's a hero we've seen a lot of, her name is Pod.
Yeah, well, Southeast Asia, we just casted that. I wasn't really able to predict many of their picks.
Yeah, no.
Kind of clues. So I'm a little back in my comfort zone here. This is what I'm used to seeing right here. Some Centaurs, throwing a Mirana in there. This is what I like to see.
Well,
because I actually know what the hell I'm talking about now.
Oh, exactly. Well, that's kind of the thing, and this is what makes the international qualifiers kind of a magical time for all of us, casters, players, you name it. We get to see a lot of teams that we all know are in contention, and maybe we've seen their name, maybe we've watched a series or two over the preceding months, but now we get to see them all in one burst and really see what kind of game shape they're in, the way they play, the way they draft, and yeah, Speed immediately grabbing up a Rubik in second position. Don't see that all that often anymore.
That's a little strange. Usually people will take that Shadow Demon over Rubik in a situation like this, especially seeing that LGD does have that Mirana. But I don't know, maybe they have a plan with that. But I think Shadow Demon would have been a better pick here, but they could have a plan. We'll see. LGD's pick next. They might take that Shadow Demon now. Yeah,
Shadow Demon's a hero that, I mean, it seems like they're just some heroes that kind of always see their star rise right around the time of the International. Naga Siren is one of them. That's kind of a running joke. If it's TI time, guess who's getting played a lot? Her name's Naga. And I would even say Mirana, to a certain extent, is in that. Morphling, of course, has a storied history in the International. And like you said, Shadow Demon. It seems like every time we get to this period of the year, Shadow Demon, his strength as a support, what he can do so far as a setup man, so far as a save a teammate kind of a player, his strength in lane, his strength in roaming, it really begins to shine. And speaking of strength in roaming, we're going to see a lot of that out of LGD as the Wraith King follows Mirana.
That's another hero that's seeing a lot of popularity, especially with Mirana. It's kind of the same concept. You have a stalled stun there that you can set up for the arrow. So makes your lane incredibly strong. If you want to run aggressive, you have that option. If the other team picks a lineup that you can't go aggressive, you can run it safe lane, and the off lane player will have tons of difficulties if you're not able to get a puck or something like that. But seeing that Speed Gaming is on the Dire, you don't really want to run that Dire off lane puck. It doesn't work off too often, but Radiant would be a good choice. So good pick here from LGD. I like it a lot.
Well, that's kind of been a discussion, just to touch on that as we wait for the second ban phase to play itself out. That's kind of been a discussion that we've all been having, I'm sure all the Dota players across the world, is the strength of the Radiant offlane. It just does seem to be an easier time for most heroes, especially those marginal ones. If you want to try to send, especially a hero even like a Centaur out into the offlane, it's just easier there, Nyx Assassin, etc. You want to break down why that is?
Well, basically, it's just the way the lane setups are. On Radiant, it's like you have a shorter lane for unknown reasons, and plus you have the pool spot. You can pull a large camp to the wave, which you can't do on Dire. So the strength of Radiant right now is the laning phase is a bit easier for the off lane.
Right.
So, and it's going to be a lot harder for the Dire. The strength that the Dire has, they have Roshan. So I feel like if you're playing Dire, you really have to build a lineup on getting Roshan, catching up on that experience you may miss in the early stages. So basically Dire, get Roshan, Radiant, you can be more flexible.
Yeah, I think we've kind of seen that all throughout all of the qualifiers, too. The Dire teams that have the success are the ones who are very quick to capitalize on proximity to Roshan, especially early. I mean, it's one thing, yes, you get into the mid-game. The respawn timers are significant enough that if you take down 2 for none or 2 for 1, you can usually buy enough time to make it into Roshan depending on your composition. But the teams that have really seemed to snowball and abuse the Dire side advantage, or I guess equalizer as it may be, depending on how you look at it, are the teams who are much more quick to jump in after anything. You take a tier 1 mid, maybe the tier 1 bottoms there, you spot 3 heroes top, just go and do it very, very quickly. So we'll see if that's going to end up being a factor here, as it has been mostly throughout the whole tournament. Bans almost complete now in the second phase. Darkseer, the only one banned out for Speed. We're waiting to see where they want to go next. Anti-Mage actually banned out by LGD along with the Sand King. Now, Sand King we've been seeing get a lot of popularity, especially in the Americas qualifiers, but Anti-Mage, a bit of an odd ban.
Yeah, I feel Anti-Mage is kind of weak, this version. I feel like the kit he has doesn't really utilize the version at all. He has to farm for like 20, 21 minutes till he gets a Manta, and then he's still decent. He needs like that third item around the 30-minute mark until he starts getting really strong, and a lot of teams can capitalize on that. There's a lot of early pushing and a lot of aggression. It's really hard to pull off that Anti-Mage, especially because its laning is so weak.
Right. What do you think was the thought process behind that Anti-Mage ban? Is that just a ban that maybe they have a better scouting report of speed, or is that...
I don't know speed very well, so maybe they love Anti-Mage, but the only logical thing just off the draft is Wraith King. If he doesn't have mana, he can't use his ultimate, so removing that will allow Wraith King to get his ultimate off. So there's other mana burners, but none that are quite as strong as Anti-Mage as far as that goes.
Well, Visage going to be the third pick up. Visage for the longest time was not just one of the most played, but one of the most successful heroes, but it seems like he fell off real hard in the latest patch. What do you think's gone into that? And I mean, you can talk about how strong he can be with the Rubik. Visage still good at all the things he's always been good at. He's excellent at applying early pressure. If he gets 6 quickly, he becomes a pusher, and he actually has a surprising amount of control if his familiars are microed well. But what do you think he fell off as hard as he did?
I'm not sure why he fell off. I love Visage a lot. I think it's a very strong hero. It's one of those heroes that you run as a support. You're kind of like the Wraith King. It's not greedy, but you can be greedy with it. That's what's so strong about it. It's like it's very strong in the laning phase, but you leave it alone there, and it can get some farm and some levels. It transitions into a carry late game. That's simply what it is. A lot of people did not pick it in the past because this is my only best guess. Is like heroes like Centaur, Dazzle, stuff like that. They instant kill birds. Like the healing wave, whatever it's called.
Shadow wave.
That thing instantly kills birds if it's on a creep wave, and the birds don't have very good range, so his birds can die. In return, also kills birds as well. There was a meta where like Axe was being picked a little while. Another hero that kind of counters Visage when he gets that Axe. But if you don't have it, Tidehunter's another hero. Anchor Smash does affect birds, so maybe it's just a lot of teams are picking heroes to counter the birds. So when you do get that Axe, it just dies. So that could be a reason for it. But I still love the hero. I think it's very strong. And Tidehunter won't be the biggest problem for it. I'm not sure if the negative damage, actually the 60% damage won't matter to the birds because they have plus damage, which isn't affected by Anchor Smash, but it will take the physical damage. So level 2 birds and up is probably what you're going to need if you want to survive through that Anchor Smash harass.
Well, it seems like Tidehunter is a real interesting hero to see played anymore. More and more teams are not just running him. I mean, yes, occasionally you'll see something kind of wonky and they'll run him as a core, and we can see that have success. I can't remember who it was that was playing, but we saw a Tidehunter that ended up with a ridiculous amount of farm. Like
and MVP was
that's who it was.
Against the Arrow game. They lost that game still, but he still was like
he
6
was
slots.
Fat. what did he do? He sold an Oblivion staff and an Ogre Club and one-shot bought a heart at one point.
Strange.
But yeah, I mean, Tidehunter's he's the same old Tide he's always been, with the Ravage and the strength of that. Minus armor from Gush, I feel like, is sometimes underrated, but really his Anchor Smash getting the buff makes him a lot more viable, and we've seen teams play with that a little bit more in the past week or so. You know, stack too, actually. Like, that's what I was going to pose to you. You see a Tidehunter come out with a Wraith King and a Mirana. Mirana, generally seen as a 1 now. She can go mid, of course, and even can go off lane. But how do you feel about a Tidehunter if he ends up going off lane in this situation and just trying to make up any kind of ground he can or he has to, if he ends up having a slow start and then just doubles back to the Ancients?
I think Tidehunter is a very strong off lane pick right now because he can do the Ancients. What speed gaming should do is what a lot of teams are doing when Beastmaster was a thing. Off lane, you'd stack the Ancients, just block the Ancients. Buy some reservers, buy some sentries, block the Ancients, because he's going to stack those and do them if you can't get much out of that offlane. And next 2 picks we got up, we picked a Spectre from Speed Gaming. I like this hero a lot. Works really well with Visage. You kind of have that global presence along with Centaur Warrunner. Fog was talking the other day too. Centaur's ultimate works on familiars. So if you
I didn't know that.
If you run the familiar over a hero, it will slow them from the familiar. So that's kind of cute.
That's nifty.
So if they got some global presence here, and the reason why we see a Lifestealer pick up is Spectre is really weak against Lifestealer. Like, you have that dispersion damage, you usually rely on that. It's a hero you want to get hard on as well. And if you can lock on the Spectre with a Lifestealer, you can kind of shut her down, and you can't really kill that Lifestealer. But the only problem I see with that is I'm not sure how they're gonna lane this. I guess it may be a mid Mirana. That's probably what they're gonna end up doing. So. That would make the most sense to me.
The Spectre pick in particular, like you said, Lifestealer matches up well against her. I also like the fact, well, I won't say I like it, but it's intriguing to me in how they're going to build a Radiant Spectre, something we see very, very often. But against this lineup from LGD, I mean, Wraith King doesn't really mind that burn, at least so long as he has some mana and he has his ultimate to rely on. Tidehunter fairly tanky by his own right, and if, you know, he survives a while, but he also is kind of dependent on Ravage. You know, you get your Ravage off, you catch the heroes you're supposed to, you're fine. And then Lifestealer deals very well with that. You think we'll see a mix-up here, something more of a hybrid build out of Speed?
As far as
instead of going like a Radiance, instead of going with more of an agility approach.
I doubt it. I think Radiance is by far the best item on Spectre.
Your favorite hero, dude.
My favorite hero, and that's it's gonna crush whatever they put mid. I mean, that's what Viper does. It crushes. But if they do roam on him with a Wraith King and the Mirana is there, that's gonna be easy kills on the Viper. Then he cannot afford to die. So a lot's gonna rely on how well this Viper can do mid lane. If he can get that early mech up, and then they can start 5-manning some towers. And they don't necessarily have the best 5-man lineup either. So I'm a little worried for this Viper that he's gonna have a rough game and can't really snowball, and that hero needs to be at least 2 or 3 items ahead of any other hero. But I do understand Viper. It's a good hero against Lifestealer. You can drop his ultimate on it goes through rage, slows him down a lot. So they're gonna have a lot of kiting potential for that Lifestealer. They do have the Mirana to deal with Steel and the Wraith King if he does transition. But one item that they could go on Spectre early would be the Diffusal Blade. Good against Wraith King.
That's what I was thinking, actually.
It could work. If he has the opportunity to do a Radiance, I doubt he will skip it. I think he'll go into the Diffusal Blade only if it's like kind of a close game.
Right.
But yeah, most likely it's going to be that Radiance. Phase Drums, Radiance is pretty much the norm now.
Right. Well, it's the Viper pick, like, you pretty much hit all the high points. You know, you see that come out after a Lifestealer pick. It makes a ton of sense. Viper Strike, of course, really does well against him. But a Death Prophet now coming out, and I actually feel like that's a fairly decent pick.
Who's their support? Is that a support Mirana? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have a support Mirana and Wraith King. I'm not a big fan of that support Mirana, but it looks like they're going to do a lot of roaming with that Wraith King and Mirana, which will really punish that Viper pick, I feel. And Lifestealer can solo just fine against the Centaur down there. Oh, yeah. One of the better heroes to go against. Any melee hero, really, but especially Centaur, because his strength gain is so high, that Feast just does work.
I think if there's one thing that we're of the same mind on is when you look at Speed, you know, you can see, like you said, the cute things like, as you just educated me anyway, I'm not sure about everyone else, but the fact that Stampede applies to the familiars and all that, the global presence, everything else.
It should apply to Spectre Haunt Illusions too, so it's actually, it's pretty strong. If there was a good game for Centaur, Speed Gaming definitely drafted it.
It looks like we're already getting a little bit of chop here on the stream, and that's always a little bit of fun, like a little bit of server connection issues. So
yeah, we're casting from Perfect World, so
yep. Hashtag PDub.
I'm good. Okay.
All right. So getting away from that, and we'll come back to the dedicated observer at some point. But for now, keeping an eye on Fierce Camera. But yeah, like when I look at Speed, the word that comes to mind is very narrow and what they're going to need to do.
Yeah,
like
looks like they're going to clash though.
Yep. 5 moving ahead. Very quickly. Level 1 team fight advantage who?
I think it definitely goes to LGD here. They have way too many stuns, and they are running the Spectre and Viper. The Viper's move speed is very slow. He could get caught here by Wraith Fire Blast.
Nope.
I think he should have probably went for that. He does have 300 move speed, and Viper's sitting at only 285. Probably could have went for it, but chooses not to, so not the biggest deal.
I'm a little surprised the Mirana didn't shoot a wishful thinking arrow there. I mean, they're all grouped up, and the chances that everyone's going to get out of the way, I mean, there's a decent chance you manage to catch someone, but looks like instead everyone going to pull on back. We'll take a look at the lineups here in a minute, but back to what I was saying about Speed. They don't have a huge comeback mechanic. I mean, Spectre, if her team's doing well and they make space for it, she can farm like hell and get big like hell. But if they fall behind with the lineup they have as very narrowly defined as what they're going to be trying to do is, I feel like it's going to be very problematic to keep that Spectre safe.
I agree with you, and it looks like they do see that, and they're going to run the aggressive tri-lane. So this is the right call, I feel. Spectre's one of those heroes that is very, very weak in the lane. So putting this aggressive tri-lane is a good call.
All right, we're underway, and the Chinese qualifier getting kicked off. LGD taking on Speed Gaming here in our first game of the quali. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'm EC. My co-casting partner is Fear, and we're live here on the BTS1 stream, all of the NA Hub coverage presented by Monster Energy. So let's talk about this tri-lane. I mean, like you were saying, they have a huge opportunity to put pressure on here. Spectre, as good as she can be, does kind of hit like a limp noodle in lane. She's very easy to bully around. If you're Speed, do you just flat out go for a swap, or do you have a game plan to try and get this back in your favor?
I don't think they're going to go for a swap because there's nothing really they can swap at this point. But one cute thing they do have going for them is they got the Viper in matchup against Tidehunter, which is a great matchup for him. If he's able to, he has a ranged hero, so he can evade that anchor smash, and he can apply a lot of harass. So this should be a pretty good, easy lane for, I don't even know who that player is, just a bunch of Chinese symbols, but it's going to be an easy lane for him regardless. But this top lane for Speed Gaming is going to be disastrous. They just need to get their levels, and luckily Spectre's a hero that doesn't need a lot of farm early on. She just needs her levels and then needs to make up for it by ganking as much as she can with that global ultimate.
The early mid phase should be fairly solid for Death Prophet, I feel. And what's the importance of this for both LGD and Speed? The fact that the DP should get plenty of levels, should not really get contested. And, you know, this is one of the strengths, by the way, of LGD opting to run the offensive tri-lane. Not only are they effectively pressuring that top lane, but it makes it very difficult for the supports to roam on mid and to do anything they can to shut down the DP. How important is it that she stays alive, gets her levels, and if you're Speed, how important is it that you find a way to try to curtail that?
At this point, I think Rubik should get smokes and solo smoke, because I think Centaur Rubik is enough to solo kill that DP. Those two heroes alone, with the Fade Bolt, the Lift, and Telekinesis double edge, will kill it. So I think they should probably ditch this top lane and look for more kills in this mid lane, because DP will have free farm against Centaur here. But at the same time, it looks like LGD should be winning 3 lanes here, so it's really going to be up to Speed Gaming in the mid game to get some kills and come back into this.
You know, and that's kind of where I'm iffy. Is like Viper, as you said, he tends to crush in lane, but if you play against him adequately, you can mitigate his effectiveness in the mid game. Centaur, I mean, he's a great hero, but he does kind of rely on Blink to really be a monster. And same thing, you know, Spectre we talked about. She can haunt into battles, but she tends to want to come into battles that are already won or that you at least have a huge advantage in. Then you talk about Visage and Rubik. Rubik's excellent as a support in the truest sense of the word, but he's not going to swing a fight on his own. And Visage really needs level 6, and he's going to be suffering to get that anytime soon up here in this top lane. So it's a real conundrum. You know, this laning phase is really going against you. I mean, does this just come down to good drafting from LGD or bad game planning from Speed?
I think it's whenever you do run this Spectre, you're going to run into this problem. So I think it was a little greedy going for the Spectre, seeing that they did have ways to deal with it already. One thing I do want to point out is Yao's skill build. This is very unusual, but I think it's very good going up against the Viper. He's got 2 points in Kraken Chill, leveling it over Anchor Smash, which means this Viper's running out of mana, and he's not even doing much damage with the harass. So Yao's doing just fine over there.
Yeah, the Tidehunter, as we've seen time and time again, he can be effective even without good farm, and so long as he gets his levels at a decent clip. But if he can get off to a good start and get up quick items like a Blink, yep, there's going to be a dive up the top. We're going to see the Rubik caught with the Hellfire Blast being chopped away. Nice arrow coming out of the woods. That's going to give Rabbit a first blood. He's taking a lot of damage, though. They're going to end up getting a return kill. So a Rubik for a lifestealer, really not the best trade in that situation.
No, it does, especially because there was only 2 heroes around. Spectre was able to get a lot of gold off of that, so she's going to have her boots up and going to be a lot harder to kill. Maybe go with that Poor Man Shield as well. Could be a good choice here. But he did get the first blood on Lifestealer, so that's good for him. He has the phase boots up, but I don't know. I think they still would have done better in this lane. Looks like they're going to go for another arrow combo with the Hellfire Blast.
Oh, actually, that caught the Spectre, and I don't know that was the right call. Let's see if she... Nope, not going anywhere.
One was going to die there, but it would have better off been the Visage there. Yep. Good thinking. Didn't work out.
I don't know if that was even intentional, because it seemed like she was trying to cut north. That wasn't intentional.
Yeah, she was trying to block the arrow on the Hellfire Blast to save his buddy. Save your buddy syndrome turned out to him dying syndrome.
2-1. LGD winning all 3 lanes by just about any measure. We can see the Death Prophet does have 25 CS in the face of the 15 from Centaur, but I mean, it does feel like Speed's going to be really relying on Centaur play. I mean, he's going to have a Blink Dagger up very quickly, so long as he's not collapsed on in lane and isn't shoved out too quickly. He's going to have good levels as well. We do finally see the Rubik moving elsewhere. He's moving down to bottom. That's just going to make this top lane even more rough for Speed, though.
Yeah, it's really reliant on the Centaur. And Centaur's like, it's not like a clockwork, not like a puck that can just come to the lane and like, boom, turn initiation around. And Viper, he can't move at all. That hero just doesn't move. If you TP's top, he's likely not going to do much. You can't really catch people overextending. You just run when you see him port. Can't really catch him. So Centaur does need to get that early blink, and he's going to struggle. He's not going to have it anytime soon. The one good thing they do have is they do have Centaur's ult up, maybe to save a couple people on top lane, but they have good lockdown with the stuns.
Well, here's kind of the issue that seems to be emerging. I mean, right now, the laning phase is a disaster. Spectre has 3 CS at 5.5 minutes in. So status quo is fine by LGD. LGD will keep this laning phase together as long as they care to. But your Speed, so you need to find a way to break this down and to try to get some kind of an advantage, to try to make some room. Where are the tools, though? Like you said, the Centaur isn't a puck. He's not someone who can just come in and make something happen, at least until Blink, and that's still a little while away. And LGD's actually the one getting aggressive. They're leaving the Lifestealer to solo farm in front of the 2 from Speed at top, and they're going to rotate into mid. A death on Centaur here would set them back so hugely.
Yeah, I felt like I needed to rotate the Rubik mid and get a kill on this DP. I felt like that was their play to make here. It's going to be a little hard now, and once this DP has her ult up, she's level 7 now, and more, as she gets more levels, they're going to start losing tier 1 towers. And I fear that if they start getting a lot of tier 1s in the laning phase as weak as it is, this could be a stomp.
Oh, he's running the wrong way. There's going to be a Hellfire Blast to lead it off. Stampede was used, but it was a little bit late. Oh, the illusion.
Great
actually
micro.
Enough. Yes, very nice. And able to keep himself alive, taking the illusion from the rune he had just picked up. Now they may take a run at Rabbit. This would be a nice way to turn this around. Let's see if they can track it down. He's not level 6, won't have Infest, but Phase Boots, Magic Immunity, too much as he rages through the last little blast of damage from the Soul Assumption and makes it back safely. That was probably their best opportunity.
They just don't have the damage to kill Lifestealer.
Yep.
Like, he's just way too tanky. Spectre not really offering much. Rubik as well. It's good in I mean, it sets up abilities, but with the Spectre, what are you setting up exactly? Oh, they do go on the illusion on mid lane, but these illusions are just really doing work right now. Blocking arrows, baiting spells, wasting time, and that's good. That's all they can ask for right now. Give Spectre some time.
And Death Prophet basically wasted that whole ult. Exorcism ended with very little done to the tower. I mean, at least in comparison to what you usually want Exorcism to be doing. Instead, used it to clear the wave. But Centaur managing to hold his ground, like you said, playing very well to keep himself alive. DDC is going to make his way back up the top lane for the moment, while a couple fall back to the Fountain to regroup. And this is where we might see some, a little chicanery as the Wraith King buys himself a smoke. We'll see how quickly he wants to put that to use. He's going to end up going back to top.
I think they need to deal with this Viper soon, though. He's actually crushing bottom lane now, but it looks like they're just going to focus all their priorities on this Spectre. And that's not a bad call.
Ward spotting this right in the lane.
All right.
So they know it's coming. And yeah, they're pulled all the way back, so they know it's 4 top. And they're actually going to go ahead and move the Centaur up in that direction, too. He's coming through the jungle. And he does have Stampede. Was curious if it was off cooldown. It definitely is. This is a big opportunity for them because they have the ambush lying in wait. Playing very defensively, hoping to catch someone out. Centaur continuing to hide his presence, at least for the moment, but it looks like Death Prophet's going to make her way up and find a regen rune on the way. Viper, in the meantime, is split pushing that bottom tower, doing what he can. We'll see if he's ready to teleport in, and they're going to dive it. Rabbit going to lead off. There's the Hellfire Blast as well as the open wounds onto the Spectre. Good arrow to follow it up. There's a Ravage, though, and LGD trying to get more work done. The Centaur there to help out, and we're going to see the Visage chased all the way into the woods.
Doing work.
Yeah, he is. Rabbit running and buying time and wasting time. LGD, though, finally going to use the Exorcism, and we're just going to see Lynn go ahead and TP out. Rabbit, in the meantime, is being kited by that Viper underneath the tower. He's taking a lot of damage, has an Infest at the ready if he needs it, and looks like he won't, so he will be able to pull back. But that's actually a pretty damn good exchange for Speed. Like you said, that Viper getting ahead and doing what a Viper needs to do at this level of the game, and really turning that fight around.
Yeah, that's what I was saying as well, playing against a Viper. It's like, don't dive into a tower against that hero. Like, he can't catch you if you run away, and if you TP right into him as fat as he is right now, he's going to do a ton of damage. So I feel like they couldn't afford to do that, knowing that he had a TP scroll, but they still made the play anyways, and that was good space. Actually, Spectre isn't getting space there at all. She died first. She's not even level 6. So they're still going to be in big trouble here.
Yep, trying to Spectral Dagger away to safety. Has help coming. That's going to be Centaur and Rubik. Rabbit's going to lose his magic immunity in just a moment. There's a Hellfire Blast to stun the Centaur, but we're going to see the Wraith King brought back. Not enough room to pursue as Rabbit able to make it away safely. Here in mid, we see Tidehunter hooking up with Lynn. Lynn should have Exorcism up and ready sometime soon. Yeah, well, actually, a lot longer than I thought. Thought he had about 15, 20 seconds. Instead, it's 45, so not a lot they can do there at the moment. In the meantime, there's another stun to lead off on Spectre. She's having a rough game. Then get her again, and they do. Stampede now going to try to turn it around, but slowed down and tossed back is DD. They're going to end up bringing him down, but now Centaur being chopped away at by Rabbit. If Rabbit can get this, that's a big double kill for him. Help's coming, but I don't think it's going to be there on time. Well shot arrow, and now they're going to get the Visage for free. The Courier's even out there. They need to get it back to safety. They're going to use Mirana's ulti, and it will be enough to get her away to safety, at least for the moment. So LGD, that time, getting much more done, and that Lifestealer becoming quite large. 50 CS and a number of kills already under his belt. Viper coming back up and trying to help things out. He's sitting at 3-0, but that time not enough to turn that fight.
Yeah, and the biggest problem for them right now is Spectre. She's still not level 6.
Yep.
We're 10 minutes in the game, and she's just a non-factor right now, and TP has to be forced. Canceled the TP mid, which is good. He would have died there, and it looks like they're going to get this tier 1 mid as well. So, I'm still really worried. Like, some of these engagements have been okay for speed gaming, but it's been the wrong heroes, like, getting these kills. Like, Spectre's still getting absolutely nothing, and that's not a hero where you can be level 5 at this point in the game. She's gonna have little to no impact. They need to find more openings, and they need to probably take a tower, and Spectre needs to make this first haunt really count.
Yep. She is currently running at about 1,600 overall net worth. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the same as the support Mirana.
Yeah, she's the second lowest level in the game, right next to Visage.
Yep, and Visage has died a number of times. Lin has rotated down the bottom. He's under cover of an invis room, and now will reveal himself with a Crypt Swarm. That's going to prompt a big reaction out of Speed. Now, they send this much personnel down here. They better get a kill or two, otherwise they're just leaving lanes free and not getting anything else out of it. They're going to be losing even more experience, even more time, and certainly even more farm. Looks like they're trying to bait what they hope will be a 2- or 3-man push, but looks like LGD sniffs it out. They're not following the creeps up. This is great for them, as a Lifestealer is now left to continue farming up top and is just going to continue to snowball.
Yeah, this is what everyone loves watching, like Chinese do in particular. It's really methodical play from both teams. They know where they need to be at what time. You don't see a lot of people getting solo picked out. It's a lot of team fight engagements over objectives.
And Speed has 3 at bottom. There's still some hanging around in the jungle. The Tidehunter, as well as the Death Prophet, are in range if they want to try to respond. Doesn't even look like they're really dedicating a lot to pushing here. I feel like Speed knows how precarious her situation is, and they're really trying to bait a mistake out of LGD, but LGD's just too smart. They're not putting themselves in a position where they could give up their lead.
Indeed, they are not. And right now, Lifestealer is still free farming. Viper does have a lot of farm. Looks like
stunned out,
something,
following the gush. There's going to be the arrow to follow. Visage Familiars do a little bit in terms of stun. There's going to be a TP, and it's actually canceled. They're going to try to follow this up and continue to move forward. Moonlight Shadow going to be used, though, and this is actually a semi-decent win for them if they can manage to bring down the tower. Up at top, though, they're going to end up trading, at best, their own Tier 1 for another Tier 1. Stampede has been used. Down at bottom, looks like that's going to be enough to force the rest of LGD off of the tower defense. So they end up getting a somewhat even trade, but again, that was 4 dedicated to that compared to the 2 it took to bring down top, and now we have an Infest Bomb loaded up. Lin.
That's a weird Infest Bomb.
It is a little odd. I mean, it makes sense, though. She's the fastest moving hero on the board right now because of Witchcraft.
I mean, it's not terrible. Just and plus they won't see it coming, most likely. No one expects the DP Infest Bomb. It looks like they're going to go for a tower here. They don't have their mech up, but and Viper does have a mech, but I think they use pretty much most of their ultimate. Oh, Centaur ult and Spectre ult. Those won't be up for this fight, so they might just let this tower go. I don't think they can possibly defend this.
It'll be tough. It'll be tough. Waiting on the creeps. And here we go. Exorcism up and used. DD there as well, so this tower not really having any chance of being defended. Once they get on the tower like that, you'd have to engage in Exorcism, and that's just not going to work. So it drops, and Lifestealer takes that last hit, and he's going to have an armlet up ridiculously fast.
Yeah, he's getting really strong right now, and there's no hero except for Viper that can really deal with that. And he does have the drums on top of it, so even if you do get that Viper strike on top of him, he's still going to be able to catch up to some extent if he does lock a target down with open wounds.
Mech is up on the Death Prophet as well, so their ability to just take the fight straight to Speed just got even higher. Blink Dagger, though, bit of a saving grace for Speed if they can get a good stomp, but even then, the follow-up is just so lax. I mean, Viper's really the only source of damage they have.
I don't see them being able to fight like at any of their towers right now. I think they should go for trades and try to get some farm up on this Spectre. And she's starting to max Desolate over her dagger now. I do like that if it does get some damage. I didn't see last time, but I'm not positive Haunt should work with Stampede, but maybe it doesn't. It seems that would be a little broken. But yeah, it does or it doesn't? It's coded not to. Okay, so it shouldn't work. I thought that'd be a little broken, but it usually does work on like illusions.
Hang on, catch on DD. So Wraith King with his ulti up though, so only so much value can be had there. Let's see if he's able to get away. He's going to turn right around. Looked like he wanted to re-engage. There's an arrow that does connect though. He's still up and fighting, and a great Ravage. Going to catch 4. And they should lose at least 1 here. Rubik does end up dropping. Moonlight Shadow there to help turn things around. A lot of damage done with that double edge, but still not enough to bring them down. Viper trying to fight this out. There's a silence on him to make sure he can't continue to pursue. And yeah, that's going to be another win. Like, that was a dead to rights Wraith King, but if a Wraith King has any friends, hang on. Rabbit's going to go ahead and jump out now, going to work on that Spectre. She has to get into the woods and will make it. Stunned behind on the Viper, though. Silenced out, beautifully placed arrow to follow it. And this is the one hero that seemed to have a good game, and he's beginning to die more and more often. And that's going to make it 10-6 now. They end up losing the Wraith King at the end of all of it, but they got 2 in exchange.
Indeed. So at this point in the game, LGD they just need to group up as 5, and every time that Ravage is up, every time that DP is ult up, I think they just go for every single tower, and it's going to be very hard for Speed Gaming at this point to defend it. They're going to need a great initiation from the Centaur, and that's pretty much it. Centaur has to have an amazing initiation, or I don't think they win any single fight here.
Yep. Well, we saw the power of Double Edge. He actually caught a couple with that and bursted him. But, you know, and Visage is one of those heroes that can give you damage if his familiars are there and there's stuns that can lock them down and they can peck away. And if he's able to hang around a fight long enough to get off a couple of good soul assumptions, he can be a source of damage. But right now, that definitely feels like where they're lacking primary sources of damage. Viper has to peck away. Spectre can't really do much. Centaur has one burst and one very nice AoE stun, but after that, there's just not a lot of follow. Yeah. And into Exorcism and into a Lifestealer, especially, it's just tough for them to hang.
So basically the way they have to play these fights, looks like we have a smoke ink up on the Spectre. Will they dive this? I think they... Oh, Spectre... Alright, Centaur ult's going to mid lane. Save Spectre.
Trying to rush down Lin, and they will succeed in that. Not a bad kill. Problem is at top.
Dies.
Yep, they lose Spectre. And, you know, Death Prophet at this point and has enough levels and even has the mech up, they can afford to give her away a couple of times if it means a kill on Spectre.
Yeah, they can, but if this translates into a tower, that would be good for Speed Game, but it looks like there's some trouble.
Rabbit, re-engaging, chopping away at the Visage. He's going to die behind the fight. Didn't manage to resummon his familiars. That might be enough to break off the pursuit if he can get a stun off. Arrow shot and misses just by a smidge on the Viper. Rabbit's moving so quick, though, and that's going to force the TP. Hellfire Blast stuns him out of the teleport, and they're going to lose Viper once again. And again, he was kind of the saving grace, he and Centaur. That's twice in about 3 minutes he's dead. He's died now.
Yeah, there's not much you can do at this stage. Like, Top struggled so hard. He did have a great start, but you just changed on the Viper, and he's, like, as you saw, they caught up to him so easily because he's so slow. He can't really get out of trouble. So if he's out of position just once or twice, he's going to die, and that's not a hero that really comes back because all he does is have single target damage. So he farms very slow. In fact, they don't have very much AoE or D-push at all on Speed Gaming, so defending these towers is, like I said, going to be a tough task.
And as DP gets more and more levels, Exorcism going to be coming more and more quickly and more powerfully.
Almost at level 11, yeah.
Yep. And there's the glyph used, but they're waiting on Viper to respawn. I guess they could try to make a stand here if they teleport him right in and engage off of the Stampede if it's even available. It is. So if he can catch, but they're just, I mean, LGD's left. There's a good Ravage. Caught two. That's going to beat Rubik down immediately. Visage has a fallback. Stun on the Centaur as he uses Stampede. Viper's there with the mech to try and help out, but it doesn't matter. The damage is just way too high. You know, we haven't even talked about Crypt Swarm, but when you talk about just the amount of spammable abilities that are on the side of LGD, they can just burst you down, or if they don't, they can just follow it up a few seconds later with another round of abilities, like Anchor Smash, like Crypt Swarm, and so on. And yeah, this one beginning to feel quite out of hand. The gold was fairly close for a while, but with the Spectre still sitting down in the bottom 4 of overall net worth at 18 minutes, I don't know. Looking rough.
It's very rough for them at this stage. Like I was going to say, all right, what they have to do here is they have to bait the Viper, Centaur counter initiate, then Spectre get in and get some kills. But who can they even kill at this point? Yeah. I mean, you're against a Lifestealer. He has built-in rage and is infest. Very hard to kill, and he's super farmed. He has 3.2k on top of his phase drums armlet. He is incredibly farmed. And then on top of that, you have the Mirana, built-in leap, hard to kill. The Wraith King, he's got the reincarnation. Also, you have to kill him twice, very hard to do. Tidehunter, innately, very tanky too. The only person that they can maybe kill is the DP, but then you have the counter initiation. Yep. With the Tide, he can just ravage. So, who can they kill? I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Looks like they think it's going to be Wraith King. Last time they tried this, it didn't work out too well, though.
Yeah, he does have some ult up.
Yeah, well, he is very near his tier 2. And, yeah, it looks like they're just going to leave him alone. The Visage familiars are right there. It's like, nope, too close to tier 2. Help will be on the way. Drums done on Spectre finally at just short of 20 minutes in. But, I mean, that speaks volumes, I think, is they see a Wraith King completely by himself. They knew at least 2 of the remaining 4 were at top. Yeah. And they go, nope, can't do it. It's too risky.
Yeah, if they went for it, they would have got his Aegis. Or, it's not an Aegis, his ultimate. But you've seen it too many times. You kill the Wraith King. All right, kill him quickly and get out. Nope, that's not how it works anymore. Nope. You don't kill that hero and get out quickly. So if you would have killed him, they would have slowly got caught. The TPs would have came in. The Ravage, well, Tide didn't have Ravage, but he would have came with that Blink Dagger. And one of them would have got caught.
Speaking of Ravage, it's up in 25 seconds. LGD rotating now into mid, anticipating a little bit of action there. That looked to be the target that Speed was eyeing. It's kind of a shame. I don't even know if they could have done it, but LGD was very passive there for about the last 60 seconds. They went right by the Roche Pit twice, could have thought about going in, but they don't even have a medallion up. Like, you know, medallion, very typical item on Visage, and just about enough to have it now, but still, that's just how far behind they are top to bottom.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good. And LGD is not one of those teams that run around and farm by themselves unless they are like a Wraith King with that ability. They're not able to find any picks. And this is like the beauty of Chinese Dota. Once they get ahead, it's almost impossible to win.
They're going to catch the Viper again as he's spotted. There's a blink in. They stun him out immediately. There's a silence to follow. Stampede Juice, he's going to mech up and try to survive, but Ravage catches 3 once again. That's going to be the death of Viper and of Centaur. And DDC, even at this point, is feeling very tanky as we saw him absorb some damage. Buyback from Viper. But it's really, I mean, we saw how quickly their entire team melted right there.
He's going to die again.
Yep.
Like, he's just going to sit in a corner and die now.
Spectre, hiding in a slightly less accessible corner, should be able to teleport away. But yeah, this one looks to be just about nearing the end of actual competition for speed. They just, like you said, I think the word that comes to mind is greed. They had a greedy lineup, and if you go greedy, you got to have a lot of things go right, and they didn't.
I feel like as well, if you're going to pick a Spectre, your other 2 laners have to be heroes that can get stuff done. Like, they have to be like a Puck, the Clockwork, a hero that can run around and create space. Viper is he's a semi-carry. All he can do is farm.
Good. It's a very good rage reaction, by the way. He actually raged through that stomp. Now they're going to follow it up. Centaur down. This will probably be their last stand as Spectre going to die once again. Godlike streak for Rabbit. And we can even see DD just doesn't care. Throws out the Hellfire Blast. Has his ultimate ready if they do decide to chase it down. But
they just have no damage. Like, they can't kill anyone.
Not even the Mirana. Like, we saw in that last fight, they actually focused her for about 5 seconds, and she came out with half health.
Yeah, like, that's the only hero you can possibly kill. And if you have to burst her instantly, or else the Ravage comes instantly, saves her, and she can leap out. So that's even hard to do as well.
Racks are falling, and it looks like Speed still going to continue to play it out. Certainly don't blame them a bit, but yeah. I mean, and you know, it's always easy for us as a free bird down there, by the way, GG. It's always easy for us to look at it and say, it's like, well, they're so far behind, but you know, sometimes you don't know that. Sometimes you look at it and go, well, we've got a late game Spectre. Maybe if we can just hold on.
Well, if they don't know, I'd be incredibly shocked. Like, they just lost like 3 team fights in a row, so I do get your point there, but I think it's time to throw in the towel, boys.
Well, that's kind of the thing is, you know, it's casters, myself included, always catch a lot of flack for, you know, saying a game might be over before it is. But the truth is, like, especially a day like today, looking ahead to the grind, these qualifiers are so many games back to back to back. A game like this that got out of hand so quickly, it's hard for me to see how it's productive to hang. And yes, you always want to give yourself the maximum amount of chance for success, but it's very difficult to me, like, to just. It's hard, like, when I play, and certainly just in pubs or whatever. Like, if I'm losing a game and it goes 20 minutes longer than it should, I'm in a very bad mood afterwards, you know?
Yeah, it's demoralizing to play these out, but there's some teams that it affects, and there's some teams that don't. Some teams will just, like, play knowing they kind of lost, but just maybe joke around for a little bit and just, like, talk about the game. They could just be talking about it. So it depends team to team and how much it'll affect them. But in this case, they're going to go for one more go here. And we'll see if they have what it takes, but it's very unlikely they can actually kill even one hero in this engagement.
Glyph deployed, and looks like LGD's ready to put a cherry on it. As the tower down to about a 1/3 health now. And they're going to go ahead and Stampede come out, and not a whole lot can be done here. The Stomp's going to catch a couple. There's a little bit of damage, but LGD able to mech through it. Tide's going to move into position. And I'm pretty sure he has Ravage at the ready. He should. Cooldown wasn't that long.
It's up now.
Yep. So he has it if he wants it. Didn't even need it there. And there's the Ravage. Manages to actually catch 3 as they were retreating out. Viper ends up down. He's down for the count. Yep, and that'll be it. So GG called. And our first game here on the main stream at the Chinese qualifier. Not the most competitive, if we're honest.
No. It was pretty much a lane win from the get-go. Like, that top lane had such a hard time. Spectre wasn't able to get any CS in that lane, like, whatsoever. On the bottom lane, the fight against the Tidehunter, but Tidehunter, one of those heroes, he just needs his levels. That's pretty much it. He got his level 6, went top, started applying a pressure really early, and mid lane, they didn't have an answer for the Death Prophet. I would have loved to see that Rubik rotate in earlier, try to get a kill on him, because they could have bursted him while they had the opportunity, but they let that pass, and then they weren't able to get any kills throughout. Like, the first, like, well, they got their first kills in like the 10 minutes after like that. It was like they hit a dry spell.
Well, I mean, it's like we talked about during the draft. Spectre, a greedy hero by her nature, but especially the choice of LGD to tri-lane into her. Freed up Death Prophet in mid, they couldn't pressure her, and then, you know, she's just so easy to bully around in lane that, honestly, as well as Spectre did, Centaur didn't do bad either. It's just not enough firepower. The entire team composition just seemed kind of very, very hollow, if that word even applies.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there was a time to run want to support Mirana, this is a good game for it. Get really aggressive, start chaining the spells against a weak lane and abuse it. Usually I'm not a big fan, but they made me eat my words. It worked really well for them.
All right, so to break down the other dimensions, catch us up on things you might have missed, welcome on to the set, of course, Sayori and Baseskip. Guys, you saw it, or if you blinked, maybe you didn't. I don't know. It was over pretty quick. What do you think?
It was over pretty quick indeed. I think Fear pretty much hit the nail on the head. It seemed to be over from the laning phase. Yeah. Spectre was at 3 CS at 6 minutes and about 10 CS at 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just a disaster of a laning phase right there. I think that almost sums up the game by itself. But DP won mid against Centaur pretty handily, and then even in the off lane we saw Tide did just fine all by his lonesome.
Kraken shell, the choice to level at and keep himself alive.
That was very smart. Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, worked very well against that Viper. So my question for you, Fear, what can we expect out of Speed coming up? Was this just like a draft issue, or is this a game that we can read into, or is this one that we should kind of just wipe away and say, all right, Speed, next time?
Well, I think never pick Viper again, please.
I'm convinced.
Yeah, don't pick Viper anymore. But no, Viper can work, but you can't pick it with a super hard carry. Like if you're gonna pick a Spectre, you need to play 4 Protect 1 with that hero. I feel like it's like picking an anti-mage. You don't really run dual core with an anti-mage. So yeah, I mean, just draft a little better. If I like their draft until the last pick Viper, then I was like, okay, whenever you pick Viper, it puts you in a situation where you have to get so much done, or else that hero just falls off because it has no team fight capabilities, really. It doesn't really help you come back from early game deficits. I don't know. I didn't like the Viper pick, but if they picked something else with that, I would have liked their draft a lot.
Do you think Speed could have done something better in regards to that tri-lane, maybe different supports to try and help secure some farm for that Spectre?
Yeah, I was saying throughout there, is like, Rubik is typically known as a good lane support, but it's because you lane it with other things. You lane it with like a Centaur or a follow-up, some type of stun or damage, but you telekinesis into like a Spectre, and Spectre's like, oh crap, I don't want that hero near me.
I got nothing, get him away.
So yeah, I didn't like the Rubik pick so much. Something like a Venomancer could have been a lot better for them than a Rubik. You know, some type of stronger laner than a Rubik would have helped them a little bit, but they probably would have ran into the same issue still, to be honest with you.
What was your take, Baseskip?
Anything
to add?
I just really liked how LGD kind of kept their lanes open during the draft. They didn't really lock themselves into anything. I think that's one of the big advantages of being willing to run the Mirana as a mid, as a core, and as a support. You can pick it up in the first phase and see what the opposing team is looking to do, and then respond appropriately. It means you're not really locking yourself into anything, and we saw that. It meant that LGD had the space to respond and say, okay, look, we want a core lifestealer, we want to go aggressive against the Spectre. We can do it. We can make it happen.
LGD is showing good versatility in their draft as well. Like they probably thought that Mirana was going to be a core, and they ran it as a support, just went aggressive, and they probably didn't see that coming.
Well, even Wraith King, Potom Wraith King is a good opener because of that flexibility. Both of them can play an array of different roles, so it makes it more difficult to draft against, and I do like that. So I don't know, there's much more else to say about that game, boys. It was a quick one. So does somebody have the schedule in front of them? My schedule.
Do not.
Somebody stole our schedule. Dreamtime versus New Element will be coming up next year on BTS1, and that should be all. None of the others have finished. Okay, so head over to beyondthesummit.tv, guys. You can check out the other 3 streams still rolling, and all those matches are going on. But DT versus New Element will be what's coming up next here, and that should be a good one. DT, the favorites by most of our accounts, but a potential dark horse. So keep your eyes peeled, and we'll have a decent break, but that will be the next match coming up. Fear and AC will be your casters for the match coming up. Of course, this is Baseskip, and I'm Sayori. We'll be back. It'll be a long break, but come back and join us here on the NA Hub presented by Monster.